Today on Amazing Dinosaurs, we're going to be checking out a huge collection of apex predators from Jurassic World and lining them up from biggest to smallest. So let's get started right over here with this super colossal T-Rex figure. This figure is featuring some custom gray skin and some bright red eyes, and I love the teeth on this figure. They're a lot darker than a lot of dinosaur teeth. So we're going to put this one at the very left because it is the biggest one of this collection. Our next biggest apex predator in this collection is this super colossal Velociraptor Blue. This giant figure features some dark gray blue skin, it's got the iconic blue stripe running down the sides, and it has some white, shorter teeth compared to the T-Rex. Let's set it down right next to the super colossal T-Rex. Alright, let's see. Next up in size is probably this Indominus Rex figure. This figure, although a little bit smaller than the Super Colossal, is one of the biggest predators that I have, and this one is actually the Battle Damage edition that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. It also has an adjustable head and a button at the end of its tail that activates the jaw. Next up in size, we've got this awesome colored Spinosaurus figure. Now this figure was custom colored, which is why you'll see a lot more detail with the coloring and the shading compared to many of the other figures. Even the teeth are a much dirtier, nastier color, which I love. Looks totally realistic. Let's grab our next dinosaur, which is this huge Pyroraptor figure. Now this figure is actually pretty special because it is battery operated and it responds to you. So let's tap it on the head and see what happens. Look at that. Its eyes change, it's moving around. Looks pretty angry right now. And you can touch its chin as well. It'll respond to you there. It's pretty cool. Check that out. Now its eyes are green, which means it's more friendly. All right, let's set it down right next to the Spinosaurus. Next up in size is one of my proudest dinosaur figures in my entire collection. I actually custom painted this Stomp and Escape T-Rex. It's got some brown on the top, green on the sides, and then the light yellow underbelly as well. This for sure is one of my best repaints, and it's next in size, so let's put it down right next to the Pyroraptor. For our next biggest apex predator, we've got another T-Rex figure right here. This one is also in a green color. And it also has the black stripes on the top of its body and some on its face as well. And it has a button on the top of its head that you can use to open and close its mouth. Next up in size is actually a vintage figure from Jurassic Park. This is a Utah Raptor figure and it stands almost as tall as the Jurassic World T-Rexes. And this figure, since it's one of the old Jurassic Park ones, it actually has rubber skin, so it feels quite a bit different and looks a bit different too. It's a lot less shiny. Over here is one of my favorite apex predator dinosaurs. This is the Carnotaurus. I love the coloring on this dinosaur and I love the way it looks. It looks kind of like a T-Rex, but it's got some horns on the top of its head and it's got much smaller arms too. This is a totally awesome figure, so let's set it down right next to the Utah Raptor. Up next, let's see, I think it's probably the Carcharodontosaurus figure right here. This figure features a dark blue body with some orange and dark brown detailing, and it has a button on its back that you can press for the chomping action. Let's set this down right next to the Carnotaurus. Next up, let's go with the Albertosaurus figure. And this one is actually a special edition Albertosaurus because it has the battle damage right on the side that you can open and close. You can even move the ribs up and down too. And check that out, it's got some slashes on its body as well. Let's put this next in line. Next in line is an Allosaurus figure. And this figure features a slide lever button on its back to activate roars and to open and close the jaws too. And it's pretty similar inside to the Albertosaurus, so let's put it right next to it. Next, I've got this Baryonyx figure with battle damage featured all over its body. It's got some on its leg, its neck, and there's an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Now, it's pretty close in size to an Allosaurus figure, but check out the difference in size between their bodies. The Allosaurus is way bigger. Check it out, I've actually got another Baryonyx figure. This one features the green, dark green, and brown coloring on its body. And it's got a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. And this figure is basically the same size as the Baryonyx right next to it. Check it out, we've got another T-Rex figure. This is the Sound Surge Edition T-Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. So let's set it down right next to the Baryonyx figure, just a little bit smaller. Over here is a yellow Cryolophosaurus figure. Check out the crown on the top of its head. That's really cool. Plus, with this figure, you can use its tail to move its head around in a real lifelike way. All right, let's set it down next in size. This next figure is a Ceratosaurus figure in the dark green coloring with the black detailing on the top. And like many of the newer figures, it has a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. For our next Apex Predator, we've got our first Dilophosaurus figure of this collection. This is an older figure and it features an action when you move the tail, it moves its head back and forth. All right, we're getting down to the much smaller figures. This next figure is another old Jurassic World figure. This one is a T-Rex. It's got the bright green coloring with some battle damage on the side, and you can use the tail to move the head. This next Jurassic World Apex Predator is a Spinosaurus in some crazy coloring. It's got the bright red spine with stripes and the blue body as well. And check it out, there's even a little battle damage on the side too. Let's set it down right next to the T-Rex. This figure is the Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Velociraptor. It's got a button on the top of its back that you can use to reveal the battle damage right on the side. Here is another Velociraptor figure. This one is a bit older than the Dominion Velociraptor that we just saw, and it has a soft green body with the darker green on top. Next, we've got an Atrociraptor figure that I'm sure you recognize from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. Let's set this down right next to the Velociraptors. Our next Apex Predator is the Dimetrodon Dinosaur. This figure features a huge spine running along its back and adjustable limbs and jaw as well. We're gonna set this one up in front of the other line because we're running out of space. So let's go to our final dinosaur, which is a Snap Squad Carnotaurus. Once again, one of my favorite dinosaurs. Let's set this right at the end. Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out a huge collection of Jurassic World Apex Predators, meaning that they are at the top of the food chain. And I've actually got a brand new Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Jurassic World Legacy Collection that we're gonna open up first. Here is the brand new T-Rex and the baby T-Rex. I already have one of these T-Rexes, but I think this is the first of the green T-Rex that I have. So I'm super excited to check this one out. As you can see, most of its body's a dark green color. It's got the lighter underbelly, and it's got the black detailing right along the top. And it's about as adjustable as my other T-Rex figures. So you can move the ankles, you can move the legs into different positions, move the tail around, and then the neck you can also move around so it can look in different directions. And of course, there's the button at the top of its head for the chomping action. This is a really cool looking figure, and I'm sure that the T-Rex is one of the best known Apex Predators. Here we've got a dinosaur that you can't find in real life, but I'm sure it would be an Apex Predator if it was real. This is the Indominus Rex, and this is one of the big figures. You can see that it's pretty adjustable. You can move the legs into different positions, and that causes the dinosaur to look up and down. You can see it moves its neck back and forth like that. This figure also comes with the two action buttons, one for the chomping, and then one on the back for the slashing action. This is another T-Rex. This one is mostly brown. It's got the dark brown on the top, lighter brown on the sides, and then a tan on the bottom. And this T-Rex figure has a tearing action, actually. So when you press this button on its back, it tears just like that. And there's also a second action button that swings the tail back and forth. Here is a Carcharodontosaurus with blue coloring on its body, and the orange and brown detailing on the top. This also has one action button for chomping. Plus, you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail as well. Next up, we've got two Indoraptors. And obviously, these dinosaurs aren't from real life, but if they were, I can guarantee you that they would be an apex predator. I just remember them from the Jurassic World movie. These were some of the most feared dinosaurs. This first Indoraptor is a more basic figure. You can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but you can't adjust the neck or open and close the mouth. But on this second Indoraptor figure, this one is super adjustable. It's got a bunch of points of articulation. Again, it's a double jointed tail. You can bend the knees, you can bend the ankles, you can adjust the arms fully, and you can open and close the mouth too. Right over here, we've got two Suchomimuses. This one is a blue with yellow detailing, and this one is yellow with brown detailing on the top. This one has two action buttons, one for chomping and one for the tail. This Suchomimus only has one action button that activates the jaw. Right up top here, we've got a smaller figure, but still a fearsome predator. This is a Baryonyx. It's got the green sides and belly and the brown top. The arms and legs can articulate and move around, and there's an action button on its back for chomping. Back here, actually, we've got another Baryonyx. This one has a brown body and sides with a dark gray-blue coloring on the top and the bright orange detailing right on the top of its face. And just like the other figure, the legs and the arms can move too. Here is an older Jurassic World figure. You can see that this is another T-Rex. It's got the full tan body, and on its head it's got some gray detailing. It's got those yellow eyes and an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Here we've got a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Yangchuanosaurus. It's got the green body, a lighter yellow underbelly. It's got some brown detailing along the top, and then that bright orange piece right on its head. This figure is pretty adjustable with its arms and its legs. You can see that moving the legs dips its head down like that. And the tail controls the jaw and can move the neck around too. Back here is another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Scorpiovenator. This figure has an orange belly and sides. It's got some white detailing right along the top and a dark gray-blue color right along the top of its head. This figure is fairly adjustable. You can move the arms and the legs, and when you push down on its legs, it does a chomping action. This one is another T-Rex. This T-Rex, though, is the Battle Damage Edition. It's got the button on top that you can use to turn on and off the battle damage, which is a pretty awesome feature. This figure is pretty adjustable, too. You can move the ankles, can move the legs up and down. The tail only has one joint in it, though. But the neck of this T-Rex is really adjustable. You can have him look in all directions, and you can open and close its mouth really easily. This is a Carnotaurus figure. It's got the clay red body with the darker detailing spots on the sides and the brown right along the top. You can see that the Carnotaurus has a lot of bumps and ridges and that spine right there as well. And with this figure, the tail controls the head, and there's a button as well to open and close its mouth. Here's another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series, and I think this is one of my favorite newest dinosaur figures. This is the Rajasaurus. This figure also has a chomping action when you press down on the legs, and you can adjust its arms, its legs, and even twist its tail around a little bit. I love this dinosaur's head. You've got the horn right at the top, and you've got this really cool, smaller spine right on its neck, these spikes. It's really cool. Here we have another very well-known apex predator. This is a Velociraptor. This specific one is actually Velociraptor Charlie from the Amber collection. So this figure is very adjustable, can move all the different parts of its arms and legs, and you can adjust its head quite a bit as well too. And it's even got this headpiece right behind its face too. This is another ginormous T-Rex, and this T-Rex is pretty adjustable as well. As you can see, you can move the arms up and down, you can adjust the leg position, and instead of moving the neck and face up here, you actually can control it with the tail by swiveling it. This is another Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This one is Velociraptor Echo. This Velociraptor has the light brown coloring as well as the dark black right on top. And just like the other Amber collection Velociraptor, it is very adjustable on all different parts of its body. You can even move the claws on its feet up and down. Back over here, we've got a smaller Indominus Rex figure. This is an older Jurassic World figure. It's got the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. And this figure is fairly adjustable as well. You can move the legs a little bit, you can move the arms just a bit, and the tail controls the mouth and the neck too. We've got a few more awesome looking Baryonyxes in here. This first one has a slide action for different roaring sound effects. And this Baryonyx doesn't have any buttons on it, but you can use the tail to move the head around. Right over here is a well-known predator from Jurassic World. Once again, it isn't a real dinosaur, but I can guarantee this would be an apex predator. This is the Scorpius Rex. This figure has 2 action buttons on its back, one for the mouth and one for the claws. And the rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs quite a bit, and you can adjust the neck to have it look around. And the tail is spring-loaded too, so you can fling the tail back and forth with those poisonous quills. Back here is a huge water dinosaur that I'm sure you recognize from the first Jurassic World movie. This is the Mosasaurus. This figure is ginormous. It's got a dark blue body on the top and then a white underbelly. And all over its body you can actually see these like white specks, a little bit of detailing. And there's a few things that you can move on this figure. You can move the fins around, you can swivel the tail back and forth, and you can open and close the jaw, which is a pretty big jaw, I'd say. Probably fit a few small dinosaurs in there. Here's another popular apex predator. This is the Spinosaurus. Did you know that the Spinosaurus is the largest known carnivorous dinosaur that existed? These were even bigger than T-Rexes. This figure has an adjustable tail, the legs are pretty movable, as well as the ankles. You can move the arms up and down, and you can actually adjust the neck quite a bit as well too. Here is another awesome T-Rex predator. This looks to be very similar as the first T-Rex that I unboxed in this video, but with different coloring. See, it's got the brown body and the darker brown on top, and just like the other T-Rex, an adjustable tail, you can move the legs and the arms, and you can move the head around too. Here's another dinosaur from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Quetzalcoatlus. I didn't really know how big these dinosaurs were until I saw them in the new Jurassic World movie. These things were huge, and they took down that plane. This is a Ceratosaurus. I think we actually have another one with different coloring. This one is a dark green color with black detailing on the top, and this one is a light gray with red and a darker gray detailing on the top as well. And they both have that slide action button for different sound effects and different roars. I think the sound effects are the same though. This one's an interesting looking dinosaur. This is a Cryolophosaurus. Look at that interesting crowning on the top of its head. This Cryolophosaurus has a dark blue body with white, red, and bright orange detailing. And you can move the arms, you can move the legs, and you can use the tail to move the head around. Here is another mighty Carnotaurus, the red side and the dark, it's almost like a purple color on the top. This dinosaur has an adjustable tail and adjustable legs and arms, and there's a button on the top for the chomping action. Here's a species I don't think we've seen in this collection yet. This is an Allosaurus. It's got the dark green body with the red and white detailing. See, it's got those spikes right along its spines up top, and you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail. And it's got the slide action button for different roars and chomps. This bright red dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus. It's a pretty interesting looking one, smaller than most of the other figures. It's got the bright orange detailing on the top of its head and the action button on its back for chomping. Next up, we've got, I believe, a Majungasaurus. This is a super colorful dinosaur. It's got the dark green, yellow, and blue on its neck. It's got those teal eyes. And like many of the other dinosaur figures, you can use the tail to move the head and neck around. This is an Albertosaurus with the Battle Damage Edition. As you can see, it's got two different types of battle damage. One that's right there on the top of the plastic, and one that you can actually open up. This has the stomach and ribs that you can close down, and then the skin that you can do to cover all of the battle damage. That's pretty cool. The rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs, arms, and tail, as well as the neck, and you can open and close the mouth manually. Over here is the Carcharodontosaurus with a blue body and orange and brown detailing. Look at all those spikes right along its spine too. It's interesting how they're all different heights. With this figure, you can move the arms, legs, and tail, and there's an action button on top for chomping. Here is another Allosaurus with different coloring and different actions too. Check out those spikes right along its spine. You can see the two action buttons right here, one for the mouth and one for the arms. And I think we actually have one more Allosaurus in here with different coloring. This one is gray with yellow detailing. You can only move the arms and legs in this figure, aside from the action button on its back that controls its mouth. Right over here is another Albertosaurus. This figure is about medium-sized, and it does not have any battle damage like the one we saw earlier, but it's still pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, the legs, and you can use the tail to control the face. Here is another Carnotaurus. This one is a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. As you can see, it's got the broken horn in the front, and this figure is smaller, but pretty adjustable. You can move the legs, the arms, twist the tail, and you can move the head and jaw around too. Here are a few small Dilophosaurus figures. This first one is mostly gray with red detailing and an action button on the tail that activates the frills. The second one is a bit more brightly colored. It has a green body and two different tones of orange, as well as the action button to activate the frills. And last but not least, we've got a bunch of smaller Velociraptor figures. Oh, actually, this is another baby T-Rex, just like we saw at the beginning of the video. But the rest of these figures are all Velociraptors, so let's check them out one by one. First, we've got the tan and brown Velociraptor. This one has a slashing action, spring-loaded torso, so it swings back and forth. This Velociraptor has a brown and yellow body with battle damage that you can open and close on the side. This next Velociraptor has a red and dark purple body, and you can move the arms, legs, and tail, as well as the mouth, but there's no special features on this figure. And these last two figures are similar in movement, but with different coloring. It's got the blue body with the yellow and gold coloring. This one has a dark brown color with orange on the top.
Today we're checking out some of Jurassic World's best carnivore figures and arranging them from biggest all the way to the smallest. Plus, I've got some new ones that we're gonna check out as well. The first and largest figure is this super colossal Carnotaurus Toro figure. It has the dark orange body with the brown coloring on top, tons of little spikes, and the huge horns on its head. Next up in size is this super colossal Velociraptor blue figure. This figure features the classic blue stripe down the side, and has fully posable arms, legs, and a jaw too. Next up in size is another Velociraptor blue figure, but this one is a bit different. This figure is battery operated, so let's see what happens when we turn it on. That is pretty cool. It blinks and its eyes move, and it even has sound effects. Moving on to the next in size, let's go with this custom colored Spinosaurus figure. This figure features way more intricate and cool coloring than the original Mattel figure featured. It features posable arms, legs, and a tail, and even the neck and the jaw. Let's set this figure down next to the robotic Velociraptor blue figure. Next up, why don't we go with this Terran T-Rex figure. This T-Rex has some of the classic brown and tan coloring, and best of all, it features an awesome tearing feature when you press the button on its back. Look at that jaw-chomping action. And we're gonna set this down as the next biggest dinosaur in this carnivore collection. Over here is another Terran T-Rex, but this one was actually custom colored. Let's set them down side by side so we can see the color differences. This one is a lot darker, and it actually has a lot more battle damage painted all over its body. And look at that, even some more battle damage on the other side. That is really cool. Let's set this down next in line. For the next in size, we're gonna go with this camouflage T-Rex figure. This is one of my favorite custom colored dinosaurs because of this really cool green camo color that has all over its body. And this figure has a chomping action when you move its tail, and a roaring action too. This figure is super cool, so let's set this as the next biggest dinosaur. For the next biggest carnivore figure, we're gonna go with this Camp Cretaceous Epic Roarin' T-Rex. This figure has the classic tan body, and it features a button on its tail for a roaring and chomping action. This one is definitely cool, so let's set this down next in size. Looks like we've got a few more T-Rex figures in here. Here is another green T-Rex, but this one isn't custom colored. This is actually how it came. It's got some black detailing along the top of its head, and it has a button on the top of its head for the chomping and roaring action. Plus, its arms and legs and tail and neck are fully posable, just like many of these other T-Rex figures. All right, here might be one of my last T-Rex figures in this carnivore collection. This one is the classic bright orange, and it features opposable arms, legs, tail, neck, and jaw too. Why don't we dig into this one next? This is part of the new Epic Attack series from Jurassic World. This is the battle-chomping Carnotaurus. And here it is. It looks like it has 3 different action buttons on this Carnotaurus figure. The first 2 are light and sound effect buttons that you can push for different sounds. So depending on how many times you press these buttons, it has different sound effects. And the third button is a classic chomping action button. The color and texturing design is pretty similar to the older Carnotaurus figures. It's mostly that clay red orange color. It has some brown detailing throughout, and of course it's got the bright yellow eyes. Overall, this figure's pretty cool. I love the fact that there are different sound effects and different battle damage buttons. All right, let's set this next in line as the next largest carnivore figure. Over here, we've got the Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. And it has 2 action buttons on its back. The first operates the jaw with the sound effects. And the second button on its back activates the claws for a slashing action. That is pretty cool, and it is quite a large figure. And it is the next in size. For our next one, let's grab this classic Indoraptor figure. This is the grab and growl Indoraptor, and it is pretty hard to find online nowadays. I don't think they're making this one anymore. It's got 1 button on the top of its tail for the claw slashing action, and another button on the bottom of its tail for a jaw chomping action. All right, this figure is pretty awesome, so let's set this next in line as the next biggest. Over here, I've got another Carnotaurus figure, but this one is quite a bit older. I think this one came out for the second Jurassic World movie, which was Fallen Kingdom. As you can see, they're a slightly different red color, and this figure is a little bit smaller than that one as well. But it still has 1 button on its back for the chomping action. Very cool. All right, let's set this down. This next figure is really long, but it's actually a little bit shorter than the Carnotaurus figure, which is why it's next in line. This, I believe, was called the Ocean Protector Mosasaurus figure. You can move all of its fins, and its jaw opens and closes too. All right, let's keep going. Let's go with this Jurassic Park
juvenile T-Rex figure. This figure is quite old. You can see the JP tattoo on its leg. It's got some battle damage on its side as well. Let's set this one down next in line. For the next figure, why don't we go with another old figure? This is from Jurassic Park 3, and I believe this dinosaur is a Velociraptor. And it used to be battery operated, but sadly it doesn't work anymore. But it's still a really cool figure, so let's set this down next to the T-Rex. Up next for scary carnivores, we've got a Suchomimus figure. This version is the dark blue with the yellow spine, and it has one button on its back for the chomping action. And let's set this down next in line right here. For the next in size, let's see, I think we should go with the Sound Surge dinosaurs. This first one is the Giganotosaurus Sound Surge. Let's check out those sound effects. Very cool, let's set this down next to the Suchomimus. The other Sound Surge dinosaur in this carnivore collection is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now let's hear the sound effects for this figure. And we're gonna set it down right next to the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus. Next up is this Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus figure. It is the classic clay red and orange coloring with the brown on top. It's got a little battle damage on its nose too. Compared to the Epic Attack figure, this one is a whole lot smaller and is a little bit brighter, and of course has much larger eyes. All right, let's set this down next to the T-Rex. The next in size is this Cryolophosaurus figure. This version has the dark blue body with the white and orange on the top. And this figure comes with sound effects, and when you move the tail, it controls the head. All right, let's set this down next to the Carnotaurus. Up next, we've got a Baryonyx figure. I think this one might be a Camp Cretaceous Baryonyx. And it's got the slide lever action on its back for different roars and sound effects. So let's set this up next in line. I've also got a custom Hammond Collection Spinosaurus figure. It has the red running along its back and on its face, and it's got the blue, brown, and red spine, which is actually pretty similar to this other custom colored Spinosaurus figure that I have in the front. So we're gonna set this one down next in line. Over here is the Hammond Collection Baryonyx figure. It's got pretty similar coloring as this Camp Cretaceous Baryonyx figure right here. It's even got a little bit of that reflective blue coloring on its face. And let's set this one down right at the very end right here. Next up is not a dinosaur, but is actually an Owen figure from Jurassic World. This figure has the classic brown vest with the blue shirt underneath. And we're running out of room at the end of the table, so I'm gonna start a new line right up here in front. For the next in size is this Dilophosaurus figure. I believe this Dilophosaurus came out for the first Jurassic World movie and is not made by Mattel, but actually I think it's made by Hasbro. And it even has an action that when you press down on its tail, it moves its neck up and down. Let's go ahead and grab this little Velociraptor blue figure. Now this figure is actually motorized, so when you press the top of its head, it comes with sound effects and chomping motions. And now we finally get to open this other new figure. This is the Epic Attack Dilophosaurus figure. Now it looks like this Dilophosaurus figure has one button on its side, and it looks like it is for the sound effects and light. And I think it actually comes with a few different sound effects too. Let's press it again. That's pretty cool. It's like a strobing light when you press it. It looks like its legs and arms are posable, and you can open and close its mouth manually, but sadly you can't move the frills at all, so you can't bring them forward, which is a bit of a bummer if you ask me, but it is a pretty cool design. So let's set this Dilophosaurus down next to Velociraptor Blue. All right, we've only got a few small figures left. I've got two Atrociraptor figures right here. This first Atrociraptor is in the classic white and tan coloring, and this other Atrociraptor figure that I bought more recently is brighter colored. It's got some red on its arms, its neck, and its chin. And we're gonna set these two up next in line. Over here, I've got another Dilophosaurus figure,
quite a bit smaller. They're both green and they have some yellow, orange, and red detailing along their frills. But this figure is actually pretty cool because you can press on the tail to activate its frills. That is really cool. Up next is another Velociraptor figure, but this is a slashing Velociraptor. That means that its torso is actually spring-loaded, so you can swing it side to side for a slashing action. And let's put this one right here. I've got another raptor over here. This one is a Pyroraptor figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the feathers all over its body and the especially large feathers on the top of its head. And let's set this raptor down next in line. And now we're on to the really small figures over here. First up is a Baryonyx with the dark brown and blue coloring. And you can open and close its jaw too. Next up is a stalking Endoraptor figure with the gold stripe running down its side. Up next is a teeny tiny Mosasaurus figure. Look how small it is in comparison to this giant figure right there. But you can still open and close its mouth, which is pretty cool. And finally, I've got a tiny Pteranodon figure with some brown detailing on its wings, on its back, and on its horn.
This is a collection of Predator versus Predator figures from Jurassic World, and we're going to be comparing all of them against each other. The first two figures to face off in this collection is this Spinosaurus and this battle-damaged T-Rex. Let's check out the Spinosaurus first. This is the Legacy Collection Spinosaurus, so this one's actually pretty hard to find nowadays. It's got the huge front arms, it's got a long and narrow snout with a lot of teeth, and this figure is quite a bit larger than its opponent, the battle-damaged T-Rex. This figure is a bright orange color. It's got battle-damaged slashes painted all over its body, even right on its face and on its chin. Now this T-Rex has tiny arms compared to the Spinosaurus, but it's still got the same jaw-chomping action. Next up for the versus is this T-Rex versus this Allosaurus figure. Let's start with the T-Rex. This is the Jurassic World Dominion battle-damaged T-Rex. It's got a darker orange body than the T-Rex that we just saw, and you can turn the battle damage on and off with the click of a button, and overall it has some pretty cool detailing and darker shading. Now let's see what's different about this huge Allosaurus figure, also from Jurassic World Dominion. Now this figure also has battle damage on the side, but you can even open it up and move the ribs to show the stomach underneath. Now this Allosaurus is a little bit smaller than the T-Rex, but it still has an awesome button for jaw chomping and sound effects. Up next for our Predator competition is this Jurassic Park Utahraptor versus this new Dino Trackers Endoraptor. Let's first check out this Endoraptor. It is super reflective, it's a dark blue color. I think it might be just around the same size as the Utahraptor, but it's got some really cool actions. First, you can move its arms for some sound effects and a jaw-chomping action. And it's also got a button on its back for more jaw-chomping action. Now let's see how this super old Utahraptor holds up. You can see that little Jurassic Park tattoo on its leg right there. Now this figure used to be battery operated, but unfortunately since it's so old, it doesn't work anymore. Like many of the vintage Jurassic Park figures, it has a soft rubbery skin, and it still has a chomping action when you press down on its tail. Next, let's go with a Carnotaurus versus an Albertosaurus. The Albertosaurus is a little bit smaller than the Carnotaurus, and it has much brighter coloring. It's got the orange stripe running down its side and the green body, and the tail twists back and forth to control the head and chomp the jaw. Now let's check out this bigger Carnotaurus figure. This figure is dark brown with a gray underbelly. It's got even smaller arms than a T-Rex does. And you'll notice that the Albertosaurus arms are a little bit bigger. And just like the Albertosaurus, the tail swivels back and forth to move the head and for a jaw-chomping action. For our next versus, let's grab this other Carnotaurus figure versus this Suchomimus. Let's start with the Carnotaurus. This figure is a bit smaller than the darker Carnotaurus that we just saw. The coloring overall is a lot more simplistic. There's not anywhere near as much shading. There's a little bit of white underneath its chin and some dark coloring on its neck and the top of its head. And the actions are a bit more simplistic too. There is one button at the top of its back for some sound effects. Let's compare that to this bright yellow Suchomimus figure. This Jurassic World figure stands a little bit taller than the Carnotaurus figure. It's got a huge spine that runs all the way from the head down to the tail. And just like the Spinosaurus, it has a long and narrow snout with a bunch of teeth on the inside. And this figure has two actions. The first is a jaw chomping action, and the second is a tail swinging action. Our next two predators are this huge Scorpius Rex figure and this even larger T-Rex figure. Let's start with the T-Rex figure. It's got a light brown body with the darker coloring along the top, and you can move all its limbs, and it has the single button on the top of its head for the chomping action. Now the Scorpius Rex has a few more features. First off, I love the detailing on this figure. There's some bumps. You can see this huge ridge running down its back. It's got these tiny little spikes on its elbows. And of course, it's got the poisonous quills on the end of its tail. And it still has two action buttons. The first moves its jaw, and check out those super awesome teeth. And the second button moves its arms for slashing. Our next two predators are first a Carcharodontosaurus versus a Cryolophosaurus. The Carcharodontosaurus is definitely a little bit bigger, but the Cryolophosaurus is a brighter yellow than the Carcharodontosaurus. Comparing the size, the Carcharodontosaurus is a little bit bigger, and the Cryolophosaurus is a brighter yellow color. It's got movable limbs, and you can use the tail to swing the head around. And the Carcharodontosaurus, though it's not as bright, it still has some bright orange running down its back and on its neck. And instead of the tail as the action button on this figure, there's a button on its back for a chomping action. Right here, we've got a Metriacanthosaurus versus an Allosaurus figure from Jurassic Park. Let's check out this vintage figure first. Now this Allosaurus looks quite a bit different from the new Jurassic World figures. It's got a different head shape and a slightly different body. But the cool thing about this figure is that there's multiple battle damage parts that you can take off of its body. Check that out, and even on its tail too. Look at all that battle damage. That is super cool. Now let's compare that with the Metriacanthosaurus. I believe this is from the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom era. It's pretty bright in color, and it's around the same size as the Allosaurus figure. And this one doesn't have any battle damage, but it does have an action button on its back to control the jaw. Before we continue on with the rest of the bin, let's actually open up this new Hammond Collection Concavinator. Alright, now I think I only have one other Concavinator figure in my entire collection, so I'm super happy to add this one. It looks like it has quite a few different colors on its body. It's mainly got this blue, and there's some bright orange, brown, light tan, and then a very dark red right around its eyes. And since it's a Hammond Collection figure, it doesn't have any action buttons, but its body is super posable. You can bend it at all of its limbs and joints. And its neck and head is especially posable, which I really like. All in all, I think this figure stands up to the quality of all of the other Hammond Collection figures. Next up for our Predator versus Predator, we've got another Carnotaurus versus an Allosaurus. The Carnotaurus figure is quite a bit larger than the Allosaurus, so let's check this one out first. Now this figure has a bright orange body with the gray underbelly. It's got the tiny little front arms, just like the figure we saw earlier, and it also has the tail that you can move back and forth to move the head and chomp the jaw. Now let's see what's different about this Allosaurus figure. I think this one is even brighter in color. It's got the yellow and two tones of blue. It's got bigger front arms than the Carnotaurus figure. It's also got a tiny little row of spines running down its back to its tail. And this figure has two action buttons. The first operates the jaw, and the second moves the arms up and down. The next two predators are this Dilophosaurus versus the Scorpiovenator. These figures are around the same size, but you'll see that the Dilophosaurus is a little bit longer. Now this Dilophosaurus is the basic edition, so there is no action button, You can move the limbs a little bit, and you can activate the frills. But sadly, that's pretty much it. Let's see how that compares against the Scorpiovinator. This figure is pretty brightly colored as well, and you can move all of the limbs. But this figure does have an action button. When you press down on its back, it activates the chomping action. Check out those sound effects too. Next, we've got the Siatsmikararum versus the Irritator. Between these two, the Siatsmikararum is definitely the larger dinosaur. It's got tons of spikes on its head, running all the way down to its back. And like many of the other figures we've seen so far, you can move the tail back and forth to move its head and chomp its jaw. Now let's check out its competitor, this Irritator. Although it's a little bit smaller, it still has some really cool coloring with the 2 tones of blue on the top. And on this figure, you can use the tail to move the head around as well. Although, you have to open and close the mouth manually. Let's keep on going. For our next versus, we've got a Ceratosaurus versus an Indoraptor. And see how much longer the Indoraptor is compared to the Ceratosaurus. This Indoraptor is the basic edition, so once again, there are no action buttons that you can press, but you can still move its arms, legs, and its tail, and it's still got some awesome spikes on its body. Let's see how the Ceratosaurus is different. It's got a dark green body with some black detailing on the top. This dinosaur seems a lot more bulkier in size. And of course, it's got an action at the top of its back for roaring and sound effects. This is the Baryonyx versus the Amber Collection Raptor. I think the Baryonyx is a little bit bigger, but this Raptor is so much more brighter. Because this figure is from the Amber Collection, there's a lot more attention to the coloring, and the limbs can be posed in many more different ways too. This figure is perfect for posing on a display shelf. Now let's check out its competitor, the Baryonyx. Because this figure isn't from the Amber Collection, there's not as much that you can pose on its body, but the cool part about this figure is that it has an action button on its back. Check out that chomping action. Now let's compare 2 very different dinosaurs. This is a Pteranodon versus an Allosaurus. This Pteranodon figure has foldable wings that you can open up, and it's probably a foot in length from wingtip to wingtip, and it's got a button on its back to flap the wings too. Plus, you can open and close its mouth manually. Now let's see this Allosaurus figure. This one is pretty simplistic in color. It has the gray on the sides and then the yellow detailing all along the top. Of course, it's got the iconic ridge right above its eye. And on this figure, there's one single action button for the jaw. These next 2 figures are smaller. I believe this one is called an Elaphrosaurus versus, if I remember correctly, the Rugops primus figure. The Elaphrosaurus has a long and narrow snout and is mostly tan. It's got some brown as well. But this other figure, it's got darker coloring as well, and you can move its tiny little arms and open and close its mouth. Up next, we've got 2 different raptor species. This first one is a Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion, and this other one is, I believe, an Amber Collection Velociraptor. Just like many of the other Amber Collection figures, it is a lot more posable than many of the normal figures, and they did a pretty decent job with its coloring as well. And the Pyroraptor has some decent detailing. You can check out all those feather designs right there. And the coolest part, I think, about the Pyroraptor are these huge feathers right at the top of its head. And next, we've got a Jurassic World miniature T-Rex figure versus a Jurassic Park Velociraptor. Both these figures are pretty old, but this Velociraptor is the oldest. It's got a spring-loaded chomping action, and it features some pretty unique coloring that I don't think I have another Velociraptor that's colored like this. Now let's check out this other miniature T-Rex figure. This specific figure comes from an older line from Jurassic World. I think it was actually made by Hasbro, so it's got some battle damage right there on the side. And on this figure, you can move the tail back and forth and side to side to operate the jaw and the head. Today we're checking out a huge Jurassic World Predator versus Predator collection where I'll be comparing many of these dinosaurs side by side. Plus, I've got a new Jurassic World Dino trackers that we'll be checking out as well. But let's get started with this Scorpius Rex and this Siatsmikararum. This Scorpius Rex figure is quite a bit larger than many of the Jurassic World figures I have. It has these huge claws on its hands, comes with sound effects and the 2 action buttons on its back, plus those huge poisonous quills as well. And let's check out the Seahawks Microrarum. It's got an orange body with some brighter coloring. It's got a bunch of spikes running along the top of its head, and you can use its tail to move its head back and forth and to chomp its jaw as well. Next up, we've got the giant T-Rex figure and an Indoraptor figure. This T-Rex figure is actually a bit older. It's got a rubbery neck and the rubbery tail. This figure has a huge chomping action. When you lift up its head, it roars, and then when you lift its tail, it chomps down with some sound effects too. And this Indoraptor figure is pretty awesome as well. It's a bit bigger than many of the Indoraptor figures I have, and it has a really cool feature where you can move the tail to twist its torso around, move its neck, and there's even buttons to control its arms and its jaw as well. And check it out, even its eyes light up too. Next up, we've got another T-Rex, but this one is a green color versus a Carnotaurus figure. The T-Rex is a bit bigger, and it has some cool black detailing right along the top. Plus, you can adjust the neck to look in all sorts of directions and use the button at the top of its head to open and close its jaw too. And the Carnotaurus over here, although it's a little bit smaller, it has some pretty awesome detailing as well. It comes in the dark brown color, it has the gray underbelly, and it has a tail that moves its head side to side and up and down, and opens and closes its jaws too. Next up in Predator versus Predator, we've got a Suchomimus, and right over here we've got the Irritator. The Suchomimus is a little bit larger and it has blue and yellow coloring along its body. It's got a huge spine running down all the way down its tail, and it has an action button to chomp its really long and narrow snout. And let's check out this Irritator dinosaur as well, which actually looks somewhat similar as the Suchomimus. They've both got tall spines running along their back and long, narrow snouts too. You can open and close the mouth manually, and you can actually use the tail to move its head around too. Down here, we've got an Albertosaurus versus a Rajasaurus. The Albertosaurus here has some extreme battle damage on its side that you can close. See its ribs that you can open and close, and you can close its skin entirely. Plus, the rest of its body is very adjustable as well. You can even move the neck around to look in all different directions too. And the Rajasaurus is an entirely different color and a little bit smaller than the Albertosaurus. It's got dark blue and some white. It's got some huge spikes running along the top of its head, and it has an action that when you press down on its back, it chomps. Here we've got two T-Rexes from different eras of Jurassic World. This first one is more recent. It's from Jurassic World Dominion, and this is an older one. I think it's from Camp Cretaceous, actually. Comparing the size, I think the Camp Cretaceous one is a little bit larger. This one is really cool because you can use the tail to move the head up and down and open and close the jaw too. And the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex, although a little bit smaller, has some really cool coloring. It's like a darker brown-orange color. Plus, it has the extreme battle damage right on the side that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. Here are some winged dinosaurs. This one right here is a Quetzalcoatlus, and this orange one is a Pteranodon. The Pteranodon is a lot more simple in color. It's mostly this brown-orange clay coloring. It has some yellow detailing on the wings, and you can open and close the mouth manually as well. The Quetzalcoatlus is a bit more of a sophisticated toy. You can actually fold the wings closed all the way, and there's action buttons on its back to flap the wings and to chomp its jaw as well. Plus, it's got some really cool coloring as well. And I think that the Quetzalcoatluses are much larger than Pteranodons in real life. We've got a huge dinosaur figure right here, and also a smaller one right on top of it. This huge one is a Mosasaurus, and this smaller one is a Sarcosuchus dinosaur. This huge Mosasaurus figure is an ocean dinosaur, so you'll see this in the water. I'm sure you recognize it from the first Jurassic World movie. And it's probably 2 or 3 feet long from the tip of its mouth all the way to the tail, and you can adjust all the fins and open and close its mouth. Now, this Sarcosuchus figure is a lot smaller, and it may not have lived entirely in the water, but I believe that these dinosaurs lived by the water and might have even hunted in it as well. It's got this super long and narrow snout, and it looks a lot like an alligator in a way. Looks like it has some armor plating all along its back too. And you can use the tail to open and close the jaw. Next up, why don't we open up this Jurassic World Dino Tractors? I believe it's pronounced Dryptosaurus or Dryptosaurus. It's looking pretty cool. Let's open it up. This Dryptosaurus figure is pretty cool, and it's around the same size as many of my Baryonyx figures. It's got some green that runs along from its arms, down its back, all the way to its tail, where it's got a ton of really interesting spikes, and it's got some dark brown from its feet that trails up all the way on its back, all the way to its head, where it has some dark blue right along its mouth as well. And let's see what else. You can move the arms up and down and outwards. You can twist the tail and move the legs too. There is the barcode scanner right there on its back that you can open and close. And it's got an action button right here on its back. It's a pretty small one, but you actually push it side to side and it rotates its head for different sound effects and for chomping too. And let's compare it against a Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This Velociraptor is bright green, it's got the striping along its back, and like many of the Amber collection figures, is super posable and adjustable as well. These figures are really cool. Next up is a Baryonyx versus a Cryolophosaurus figure. They're about the same size. I think the Cryolophosaurus is a little bit bigger and heavier. This dinosaur is pretty muscular. Look at those huge legs. It's got a huge torso as well, and it's got some really cool crown embellishment on the top of its head. And best of all, you can use the tail to move the head around in a really lifelike way. Let's compare that to the Baryonyx figure, a little bit thinner. It's probably a faster runner. It's got some smaller legs and arms. It's got a variety of different colors along its body, and it's got the slide lever action for different chomping movements. Here is a Ceratosaurus versus what I believe is a Yangchuanosaurus. They're about the same in size. I think the Ceratosaurus is a little bit bigger. The Yangchuanosaurus has a really long neck though. Let's check out the Ceratosaurus. It's got some different tones of brown. It's also got that bright red as usual, an action button on its back to open and close its jaw, and you can move its arms and its legs and its tail as well. The Yangchuanosaurus figure is totally different in color. It's green, yellow, and blue, and on this figure you can use the tail to move the head around. Sounds like the sound effects are a little bit broken though. This figure has even smaller front arms. I think those might be even smaller than a T-Rex's front arms, and definitely smaller than a Ceratosaurus's front arms as well. Over here we've got another Amber Collection Velociraptor figure versus a Baryonyx figure. The Baryonyx is a little bit larger than the Velociraptor figure. It has a longer neck and maybe a longer tail, I think. And it's got an action button on its back that you can use to open and close the jaw. Check out that super bright orange detailing right on the top of its head too. And it's got a long and narrow snout. The Velociraptor, on the other hand, doesn't have quite as long of a mouth, and it's a bit more wide. Its eyes are a lot larger, and since this is from the Amber collection, it is very posable and adjustable too. Way more posable than that Baryonyx figure. This is a Carcharodontosaurus figure versus a smaller Indominus Rex figurine. Carcharodontosaurus is definitely a lot larger. It's got some bright yellow, orange, and brown coloring. It's got striping all the way down its neck and its back, and it's got a huge action button on its back for chomping. Look at that huge chomping action all the way down, and it's so fast you can hardly see it. This Indominus Rex figure is a bit older and a bit smaller. It's got the classic gray detailing with a bit more green gray coloring along the top, and this has some extreme battle damage on the side that you can open and close, which is really cool. And with this figure, you can move the legs and the arms, and you can use the tail to chomp the head. These are our last two dinosaurs of the bin. We've got another Ceratosaurus. This one is from the Hammond collection versus a huge Velociraptor blue figure. The Ceratosaurus figure is a lot bigger in size in terms of its torso. Look at this difference between this skinny Velociraptor and this huge Ceratosaurus figure. And since this is a basic Velociraptor blue figure, there's not a ton of detailing, and you can only move the arms and legs. But with the Ceratosaurus, since it's from the Hammond collection, has a lot more awesome detailing and coloring, and you can adjust the arms, the legs, the tail, and the head in all sorts of different poses. Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out this massive collection of predator dinosaurs. And we're gonna start off with these brand new figures right here. Let's go ahead and start with this one. This is the Sound Strike Irritator. Let's go ahead and open it up. All right, this is a really cool looking dinosaur. Check out that super tall spine along its back. It's got light blue and dark blue along its back, all the way up to its neck. This dinosaur has two actions. First, a thrashing action with the tail and the head. The second is a chomping action with the tail, moves the head up and down. That is super cool, and I love the sound effects on this one too. Next up, we've got a Jurassic World Dominion Pyroraptor. Let's check it out. Alright, this is actually the first Pyroraptor of my collection, so I'm super excited to check it out. Most of its body is a clay red color. It's got some brighter red right on the top here, and then the back side of it is a black color. On this figure, the tail moves, the legs move, you can twist the ankles too, as well as the arms. But the jaw doesn't open and close on this one. Overall, this figure looks pretty cool. Next up, we've got a Jurassic World Dominion Atrociraptor. Let's open it up. All right, so this Atrociraptor is basically the exact same size as the Pyroraptor, and it looks pretty cool, it looks pretty ferocious. Its body's all white, except for those black-brown stripes. It's got those red eyes right there. And just like the Pyroraptor, you can move the tail, the legs, and the arms, but the jaw and the head doesn't move at all. Next up, we've got this old Jurassic World Special Edition Indominus Rex. Look at all the crazy coloring on this Indominus Rex. That is really cool. And it's got a button right here that launches the spikes out. Next up, we've got a super detailed Giganotosaurus. This is a super cool model because look at the attention to detail all over its body. See, it's got the green eyes, it's got tons of teeth, and those actually look pretty sharp. And the skin all over its body looks super realistic and textured. That is really cool. The only part that moves on this dinosaur though is the jaw. Here we've got a super old Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is from the Jurassic Park line. Its body is all green and orange right up to the head. And this T-Rex can actually eat miniature dinosaurs too. It has a tunnel that goes all the way down to its stomach, and you can get the miniature dinosaurs out right here. How cool is that? Here we've got another Indominus Rex. This one is normally colored, as you can see, and is one of the older Jurassic World dinosaurs. This figure is pretty big. It's probably about 2 feet long, and it comes with some actions. When you pull down on the arm, it opens and closes its mouth. And you can move the legs, and check it out. Its whole head and neck is super rubbery, and the rest of its body is a hard plastic. Right up top here, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex with battle damage that you can turn on and off, just like that, with a click of a button. That is super cool, and the rest of the figure is fully posable as well, with the tail, the legs, the ankles, the arms, the neck, and the mouth. Next up, we've got a custom colored Indominus Rex. Look at how differently this one looks. It's got the bright blue on the underbelly, leads up to the purple on the sides, and then that orange detailing right along the black. And check out all those spikes and those green eyes too. This is a really cool custom colored dinosaur. Here is another Indominus Rex. This one has battle damage, just like that T-Rex we saw earlier, that you can turn on and off. That is so cool, and this figure is fully posable as well. Here we've got a super colorful Velociraptor. This dinosaur is super posable. You can move basically every joint in its body, and it's got that awesome green-blue coloring along its whole body with all that gray detailing throughout. Next up, we've got a bright predator called the Majungasaurus. This dinosaur has some teeny tiny little arms up front. It's got a big tail with spikes on the underside and some blue and yellow detailing right on the top and on its face. Here is a totally different colored predator. This is the Rajasaurus. It's got a brown body and a gray-blue detailing along the top. It's got those spines right along its neck and a little horn right on the top of its head. Here is a Carnotaurus. It's got a clay red body with a darker brown along the top. You can move the arms and the legs and the tail. And the tail actually controls the head, so you can move it around. Here we've got a ferocious beast from the Jurassic World movies. This is a Scorpius Rex. It's got an all black body with a yellow underbelly. And this dinosaur has two actions. First is with the jaw, and the second is a slashing action with this button. Here, we've got another T-Rex, but this is a hybrid T-Rex because it's got those huge spines on its back that you can actually close and hide. And then when you press this button on its back, they'll pop out. That is super cool. And super interesting coloring on this too. It's green with gold on the top and the bottom, and it's got this interesting pattern right along its side. Here is a medium-sized Spinosaurus. This one is all green except for the white and red along its spine and the red right around its eyes too. This is a medium-sized Velociraptor. It can move its legs and its arms, but you can't close its mouth. Its body is mostly brown with gray striping along the top. Here is another T-Rex, but totally different colored. You can see that this dinosaur is from the older Jurassic World toy series. Its body is all tan with a slightly lighter underbelly, and it's got an action button on the top that controls the jaw. This is the Albertosaurus with the all green body and battle damage. With this battle damage, you can open it up and you can actually pull down the ribs or push them back up to reveal the stomach inside, and it's actually a little squishy. Plus, it's got some battle damage right here too. This is an Indominus Rex and super detailed. This thing has more spikes than many of the other Indominus Rexes that I have. That's really cool. And the only thing that moves in this model is the mouth. This is a Suchomimus. It's all yellow and brown, and it comes with two action buttons. One that controls the face, and one that controls the tail. Right over here, we've got a model of an Endoraptor. It's an all black body with the yellow and orange detailing on the sides and all along its spikes right there. That is really cool. And it's in a crouching position as if it's sneaking along. That's so awesome. This is a Ceratosaurus. It's got a gray underbelly and red and black detailing on the tops and sides. Check out that horn right up top too. This predator is a Baryonyx. It's got a brown body with a dark gray detailing on top and bright orange accenting right on top of its head. This, I believe, is another Ceratosaurus, but this one is a dark green with black accenting along the top. You can see it's got a bunch of bumps right along the top of its body too. This Ceratosaurus has a slide action, so you can actually get a few different roars from it. Here is another medium-sized Velociraptor. This one, though, is a tan color with green striping along the top. And you can move the arms and legs, but the mouth is stuck open, just like that. Here is a medium-sized Tyrannosaurus Rex model. And look at all the shading and detail to its body, too. I really like this one because of how cool it looks with the clay red coloring alongside the black. This is a Cryolophosaurus. It's got an all yellow body with brown detailing on the top and that bright orange right on the top of its head. Plus, with this dinosaur, you can move the tail to control the head. Here is a giant winged predator. This is a Pteranodon. It's got an all blue underbelly and the bottom of its wings, and on the top, it's got a dark red with some white accenting on its wings. Next up, we've got an Allosaurus. Check out the yellow underbelly and the blue detailing on its legs and the top of its body and its face. And this Allosaurus has two action buttons. The first controls the jaw, and the second controls the arms. We've got another old Jurassic World toy series Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I believe this one has custom coloring. It's got an all red body with black spots, a yellow underbelly, and yellow eyes. Here is another Carnotaurus, but this one is smaller than the other figures we've seen, and it's actually a little bit rubbery. You can actually kind of bend the legs a little bit, but it's still got those two giant horns on its head. Right over here, we've got a few more Indominus Rexes. They're a little differently sized, and they're both from the old Jurassic World toy lines. Both of them have battle damage. This one is always visible, but on this figure, you can actually hide the battle damage. And they both come with an action that when you move down the tail, they jump. Right over here, we've got a super brightly colored Dilophosaurus. Check out the bright blue along its body, and in the very front, super bright yellow and red. This dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus, and it's got a yellow-green color on the underbelly and on the sides, and on the very top is a darker green. Plus, there is an action button that controls the jaw. Right over here is a smaller dinosaur. This is a Masiakasaurus. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. And it has an all-green body with brighter green right along the top, plus an action button to control the head and the neck. Here we've got another Endoraptor. This Endoraptor is all black aside from the detailing right along the side. And you can control the arms, the legs, and the tail, but there's no button to open and close the jaw. This is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Check it out, it's got the black stripes right along its body. Its torso is actually pretty big, and this figure is standing in a roaring pose, just like that. This is a Carnotaurus from the new Jurassic World Dominion toy line. You can see that one of the horns is broken off, just like in the movie. And you can move its legs, its arms, its neck, and its head. Here is a super interesting looking dinosaur. It looks like it has feathers all over its body. I think it might be a T-Rex, but I can't quite tell. But how crazy is that? Look at those feathers right along the top of its head too. Here is a smaller Ceratosaurus. This is an older Jurassic World toy, and it's got battle damage right there on the side too. I think it's out of batteries, but normally it would light up. Plus, when you pull down on the tail, it opens and closes its jaw. Ooh, here's another old Jurassic World toy. I actually can't tell what type of dinosaur this is. Maybe an Allosaurus, I can't tell. But it's got a little bit of damage on the side and super brightly colored. It's got that yellow and red all along its body. Here are a few more Velociraptors, and look at the size difference too. This is an older Jurassic World Velociraptor, and this is a newer one. This one is dark brown with gray stripes along the top and battle damage, and you can actually control the tail to move the mouth. And on this Velociraptor, it's a lot smaller, but just as adjustable. You can even open and close the mouth by hand. All right, another model Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one is a dark green color and is in that roaring pose too. Check it out. Here are some interesting looking dinosaurs. I believe this one is a Herrerasaurus. And this dinosaur is fully adjustable with the legs, the arms, the neck, and the mouth too. And this dinosaur is from the old Jurassic Park toy line. I actually can't quite tell what type of dinosaur this is. I'm unfamiliar with this one. Up next, I bet you recognize this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Dimetrodon. It's got that bright orange accenting right along its spine and the yellow along its body. And this front arm right here controls its mouth. We've got a few more T-Rexes in here. This is another model T-Rex, a bit smaller than the others. It's got a yellow underbelly and brown and black top. It's got those red eyes too. And these other T-Rexes are from the old Jurassic World toy line. Check out this bright orange one. This is actually a hybrid dinosaur. It's got gold right along the top with the black stripes. Plus, it's got an action that when you move the tail, it controls its face. Same with this T-Rex too. This T-Rex though is bright green with battle damage on the side. And when you control the tail, the mouth moves. Next up, we've got a new dinosaur from the Jurassic World Dominion movies. This is an Atrociraptor. It's in that sneaking pose. It's crawling close to the ground. We've got another super brightly colored Dilophosaurus. Check out that bright green along its body and the orange right along the top. And the final dinosaur of the bin is a Monolophosaurus with battle damage on the side that you can open and close. This Monolophosaurus is also fully adjustable with the legs, the arms, the neck, and the mouth.
Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out a ton of Predator dinosaur figures from the Camp Cretaceous collection. And I've even got some huge brand new ones to open up today. Let's go ahead and start with these brand new ones. Let's start with the biggest one at the bottom here. This is the super colossal Indominus Rex. Let's open it up. This thing is already huge. Let's get those legs and tail on. Here is the fully assembled super colossal Indominus Rex. So first off, it has the typical coloring that the smaller Indominus Rexes have. But when you open up the mouth, you can see that there's a tunnel that goes all the way down into the stomach compartment right here. So you can actually feed this Indominus Rex miniature dinosaurs and then empty it out through the stomach right here. That is super cool. Plus, even though this thing is huge, it still is fully adjustable. Of course, you can adjust the jaw. You can also twist the neck. You can adjust the arms up and down. You can move the legs and ankles. And of course, you can move the tail. All in all, I'd say this dinosaur is probably around 2 feet tall and maybe 3 feet long. We've still got 2 brand new dinosaurs to open up. Let's start with the Albertosaurus.
All right, so this is a medium-sized dinosaur. As you can see, it is a mostly green dinosaur, but it has those red striping on its side from the head all the way to its stomach on both sides. And there's an action button on the tail. If you press the button, it chomps the jaw. Plus, if you twist the tail, it moves its head back and forth like that. I have a few other Albertosauruses. Some of them even have battle damage on the side. This one does not, so this is just the normal primal attack Albertosaurus. Next up, we've got a feeding frenzy Indominus Rex. Let's open it up. All right, here is the feeding frenzy Indominus Rex. Let's check it out. So it has the same coloring as the huge one that we just saw, and it has this huge face and jaw too. This dinosaur comes with tons of sound effects, and it comes with this piece of meat. Let's see what happens when you feed it. So it's making some growling noises, and when it hits the trigger in there, its eyes start glowing too. That is pretty cool. And I love how big the teeth are on this dinosaur as well. Just look at that. Those are so huge. Right up top here, we've got another Indominus Rex. This one is still huge, not quite as huge as the super colossal one that we just opened up. And as you can see, it's colored kind of the same. It has some dark gray on the top and a lighter gray on the sides. It's got those orange eyes. And this dinosaur has 2 action buttons on it. First, you've got the tail button that activates the jaw. And then you've got a button on its back that activates the slashing action. All in all, this is a really cool Indominus Rex figure. Up next, we've got a giant Spinosaurus with dark green coloring on the sides. And on its spine, there's red, white, and a little bit of green at the bottom. Plus, this Spinosaurus is fully adjustable with the neck, the arms, the legs, and the tail. And of course, you can press the button on the top of its head to open its jaw. This is a super awesome figure and huge. Right up here, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I believe that this one was custom colored. So you won't really see coloring like this on other T-Rexes that you can get. But look how cool it is. It's bright red, black on the top, and then the orange on the sides. It almost looks like the T-Rex is on fire. That is so awesome. Back here, we've got another T-Rex. This one is normal color. It's got brown on the sides, a darker brown on the top, and the tan belly. Plus, this dinosaur has a few action buttons as well. You can move the tail, and it moves its head around, which I really like. It's super realistic. And there's even a button on the tail that you can press to open its jaw. Back here, we've got another T-Rex, but this one is battle damage. Look at that right on the side. And pressing the button, you can turn it on and off. That is super awesome. And this T-Rex is fully adjustable with the legs, tail, neck, and the jaw as well. Back here, we've actually got another battle damage T-Rex, but this one is a bit different than the other one. Instead of having the thing on its side right here, you can see that there's a bunch of slashes all over its body, on the tail, on its legs, on its belly, and even on its face. And just like the other T-Rexes, this is fully adjustable. You can move the tail, the legs, the arms, the neck, and this one has a button at the top to make it roar. Here is another giant Spinosaurus with different coloring than the last one we saw. This one is mostly brown with the red detailing. You can see along its face it's got that bright red coloring as well as along its spine. And even on the top you can see that there's a lighter tan and then a dark brown color right along the top. That is super cool. Fully adjustable, and it has the button on the head that you can use to open its jaw. Up next, we've got the mighty Carcharodontosaurus. This dinosaur is a mostly tan yellow coloring, but you can see that there's orange and brown striping all the way up to its head. And this dinosaur has an action button as well. With the button on its back, you can do the chomping action. Here is the Tarbosaurus. This dinosaur has totally different coloring. It is a dark gray color with black stripes all along its body. It's It's got those spikes all along its spine, and right on its chin and on its neck is a bright red color. This dinosaur is fully adjustable with its arms, legs, tail. The tail actually controls the head, and the button on the tail controls the jaw as well. Here's another fierce predator. This is an Allosaurus. It's a dark green color with red and white speckles on its neck and face. And it is fully adjustable, and it's got this slide action. That is super awesome. Right over here, we've got the great Metriacanthosaurus. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a yellow-green color on the sides. It's got the green coloring on top with the action button that controls its jaw. And it is fully adjustable in the legs and arms as well. Right over here, we've actually got a few Baryonyxes with totally different coloring. This first one, gray coloring with blue and a bright blue on the top, and it has a slide action for its roars. This second Baryonyx is brown colored, and it has blue detailing on the top and a bright orange top of the head. And the action button on this dinosaur activates the jaw. All right, here's another massive predator. This is a Carnotaurus. This dinosaur can be controlled by its tail. When you move its tail, it moves its head around. There's also a button on the tail to activate the jaw. And I love the coloring on this. This is like a dark brown red color with speckles of like a gray color as well. So it's quite detailed and fully adjustable as usual too. Right over here, we've got a super long-nosed dinosaur. This is the Sarcophagus. This is a clay red color on the top. Look at all those spikes along the top of its body. And along the bottom is a dark green color. But I love the detail of all those spikes along its back. That really gives it a strong texture. That's really cool. And the tail, of course, controls the head, so you can move the head around. Right back here, we've got a winged dinosaur. I'm sure you recognize this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is the Quetzalcoatlus, and it has two action buttons. The first on the top flaps its wings, and there's actually one on the bottom that controls the mouth. Oh, here's a dinosaur you don't see too much of. This is a Ceratosaurus. This dinosaur is gray with splotches of dark brown, and of course the red back and the super bright red face with the white horn on the very top. This dinosaur has an action button on its back that controls its jaw, and the rest of its body is fully adjustable. Right back here is another Sarcophagus, but this one has totally different coloring. It's got the blue bottom, the dark purple top, same spines though, and then it's got orange and red splotches all over its back. That is super cool. Here is another unusual predator. This is the Majungasaurus. This dinosaur is pretty brightly colored. Although it's mostly green in the back, it has those bright yellow coloring right along its back and that bright blue color right on its neck and on its head. And this figure has quite a lot of sound effects, as you can hear. The tail also moves the head around so you can make it look super realistic. All right, this is another super noisy dinosaur. This is the Cryolophosaurus. This figure is dark blue around most of its body, and it's got the orange head and neck as well. I love that accent. And with this tail, you can adjust the head and wiggle it around. How cool is that? All right, here is a full-sized Allosaurus. I love the coloring on this dinosaur. It's got the tan yellow bottom and the bright blue top. That is so cool. I think we've actually got two Allosauruses here, both with different coloring. But let's check this one out first. This one has two action buttons on the top. The first controls its jaw, and the second button controls its arms. How cool is that? The legs are fully adjustable and the tail you can twist as well. The second Allosaurus is mostly gray with the yellow splotches all along the top of its body. And this has one action button on its back where you press it and it controls the jaw. Right over here, we've got a brightly colored Suchomimus. This is a bright yellow with brown along its spine, and this dinosaur has a few action buttons. The first controls its neck and jaw, and the second controls its tail. Plus, the rest of the figure is fully adjustable as well. Oh, here's actually a second Suchomimus with totally different coloring. This one is mostly blue along the entire body, but it's got the yellow detailing along its spine as well as those splotches. And this Suchomimus has one action on its back. When you press it down, it does a chomping action. All right, here's another Baryonyx with different coloring. This Baryonyx is light brown on the sides and the belly, and on the top has a dark blue coloring all along its back to the tail and to the head. But the coolest part of the coloring is this super reflective blue coloring right on its head. This Baryonyx is fully adjustable and it has one action button for its jaw. Here is another Cryolophosaurus. This one is differently colored than the last one that we saw. It's mostly yellow with the brown on the top and of course the bright orange crown on its head. This dinosaur is fully adjustable. You can move the tail to adjust the head, and of course, as you can hear, it comes with tons of sound effects. Here is another Metriacanthosaurus, but once again, different coloring than the last one we saw. This one is a bright red color with brown detailing all along its back, and on the head, you can see that it's got that bright orange and yellow coloring. There is one action button on this dinosaur, and that controls the jaw. Up next, we've got another Carcharodontosaurus. Check out the coloring on this one. This is a bright blue coloring, and it's got the brown and orange specks on its back and neck, and right around its eye as well. This dinosaur is fully adjustable with legs, arms, and tail, and there's one action button on its back that when you press, it does a chomping action. All right. We've got another Baryonyx right here. This one is bright green with brown on the top. And as usual, the arms and legs are fully adjustable, and there is one action button on the top that controls its jaw. All right, check this one out. I remember this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Dimetrodon. And look at that huge spine on its back. It's red with yellow speckles all over it. And with this dinosaur figure, when you wiggle the tail back and forth, it opens and closes its jaw. All right, I see a ton of Velociraptors in here. Let's pull a few out. This Velociraptor is a green color with a darker green along the top and is fully adjustable. Even with the mouth, you can open and close. The second Velociraptor is different coloring. This is a blue along most of its body. It's got the tan bottom, but the coolest part of all, it's got the yellow along the top and a shining gold along its head. It's actually reflective, which is super cool. And this Velociraptor is mostly tan. You can see it along the bottom and the sides with the brown top. But most importantly, this Velociraptor has a slashing action. It is spring-loaded, so you can actually twist its torso back and forth, and it'll do this slashing action. All right over here, we've got a baby T-Rex with a jaw-chomping action, brightly green colored, and fully adjustable. And this is a Dilophosaurus. It is mostly gray colored with darker gray along the top. But this Dilophosaurus actually has an action. When you move the tail, it activates its frills. That's so cool. We've still got more Velociraptors in here. Let's check them out. Here are 4 Velociraptors. The first is an orangish Velociraptor, and it has the slashing action. The next Velociraptor is a bright red color with green striping on the top. Look at how bright this Velociraptor is, and it is fully adjustable. The next Velociraptor is a classic one. This is blue, and it comes with battle damage on the side as well. And this Velociraptor is more of a yellow coloring with brown on the top. This one also comes with battle damage on the side as well. All right, just a few dinosaurs left. This is a Herrerasaurus. It is all green and it has different shades of green all along its body. And it is fully adjustable with the mouth, the neck, the arms, and the legs. Over here, we've got a weird looking dinosaur. This is the Shringosaurus. Look at those huge horns on its head, and the brown coloring on the top and the yellow on the sides. This is quite the odd looking dinosaur. At least I think so. And our last two dinosaurs of this collection. First, we've got the Great Dimorphodon. This is mostly a gray color with a dark red along the bottom of its wings, but it's still fully adjustable with its legs, its mouth, its neck, and its wings. And this Velociraptor is a dark gray color with yellow detailing right along the top of it, and is fully adjustable as well.
Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.